So I'll just take a moment to introduce myself. I'm Lauren Taub Cohen, a poet and dear friend of Julia's. And somehow, some lucky way, in the summer of 2012, I stumbled and found my way onto Julia's blog, The Painted Path. And I'm guessing, like many of you, I immediately felt a connection to Julia's poetry and poems, but also the warmth behind those words, the comforting warmth. And there was something incredibly open, honest, friendly, and freeing about her poems that hooked me. And no wonder, those are some of the words I would use to describe Julia. She shows up on the page. And so I reached out to Julia, and we've been exchanging poems and emails ever since. And then at the start of the pandemic, I participated in Julia's inaugural Write Yourself free 6-week writing class. And I see many familiar faces, and I've been participating pretty much ever since. And it's been an honor to write with many of you and to write with Julia after all this time emailing and exchanging poems. I feel quite privileged to have seen how some of Julia's writing in class showed up in poems that are now in Staying in Love. So to kind of been there at the beginning to see how these verses form. And before I turn this over to Julia, I just wanted to mention a couple kind of technical things to just help us settle. And one is we went ahead and muted everyone, and you'll be able to unmute. It feels very draconian to mute everyone, but during the Q&A part, of course, you're welcome to unmute and ask questions or chat in your question. And the way to raise your hand is if you, for many devices, if you click the reactions button, there'll be, several emojis, clapping hands, thumbs up. If you click those disappear. So you just click the raise hand, and then, yeah, so I'll turn it over to Julia.
Thank you, Lauren. It is just so fun to see everyone. Some of you, Eileen, I'm just so happy to see you. There's so many of you who I have had connections with online and have never actually really gotten to see you, your faces. So thank you so much for coming tonight. It's just such an honor. So I'm Julia, and I am a poet, let's see, what else am I? A teacher and a life coach. I am a wife to Matt, who is here tonight. And my two daughters, Marielle and Lily, who are now 20 and 17, which is really amazing. I live in Western Oregon, which really is home for me. I don't know what it is about Oregon and home that makes me want to cry, but it took a long time for me to find home. I was in the military brat for a good part of my childhood, and coming to Oregon just felt right. So this is my place. And yeah, so that's me. I've been writing poetry since I was tiny. Since I had a little lock journal that I would hide, one of those tiny little keys, and it's always been my my shelter, my kind of a sense of refuge for me, a way of processing the world, and also a way of just getting out of here and into the moment that I'm in, this exact moment. So really, I kind of think I might have to say it's been kind of everything for me. It's really been kind of a salvation. So that's a little bit about my story with poetry, and really my intention with every poem I write is to just get out of the way. I really am not interested in listening to myself. I want to listen to something deeper, whatever you want to call that, source, divine, God. That's really my always my intention, is to access this higher wisdom. So that's a little bit about me. Yeah. And I'm just so excited. I just want to sit here and stare at everybody. So excited you're here.
Mhm.
Ah, yeah, I
Yeah.
think I'm going to turn it back over to Lauren.
And we thought it'd be nice to just maybe settle and arrive together, and I'll offer a little just arriving practice that you're welcome to do with your eyes open, eyes closed. It's just going to be a minute, but just a way of kind of settling into this time together, getting cozy. As a way of beginning, you might just notice and feel the support you're sitting upon. And noticing the support beneath your hands, support beneath your feet. And allowing your body to be as it is. And feeling your breathing and allowing your breath to be just as it is. You may even notice the weather within or the mood within. Just allowing that to be here, just as it is, however it is. In a moment, Julia will begin reading, and you're welcome to keep your eyes closed or open them, however you'd like to receive the first poem of tonight.
Let's forget the world for a while. Fall back and back into the hush and holy of now. Are you listening? This breath invites you to write the first word of your new story. Your new story begins with this: you matter. You are needed, empty and naked, willing to say yes and yes and yes. Do you see? Sun shines day after day, whether you have faith or not. Sparrows continue to sing their song, even when you forget to sing yours. Stop asking, am I good enough? Ask only, am I showing up with love? Life is not a straight line. It is a downpour. It is a downpour of gifts. Please hold out your hand. Just want to say a little bit about that particular poem. Those last lines for me have become a mantra. I find that whenever I start to get down that road of am I good enough, or the anxiety that comes with trying so hard, that is my reminder, because there's a part of me that cares about being good enough, but really I that's not the part I want to listen to. So it's just a reminder for me to return to love, to what to what really matters. So that has become a mantra, I would say, of sorts. I was in a writing class a couple of years ago with some amazing women, and I stopped in the middle of this poem. I read it to them for the very first time, and I just said, that's my life mantra to just show up with love. And it's a constant practice, like one moment at a time practice, every single day practice. And I think that's just what it is. It's just coming back again and again to what's right here. Yeah.
To that point again of coming back to what's right here. Each time I've heard you read it, and as I read it, that line, the hush and holy of now. Like, oh yes, like, and seeing the words on the page as a standalone verse, you matter. And like letting that space really emphasize that stands out, touches me.
Thank you, Lauren. Absolutely. And at the end of class, we'll leave a little bit of time if people have anything that they want to ask or, just comment on. Also, I was going to say, those of you, probably most people know that there is in the right-hand corner, at least on my screen, there's a view button where you can click on gallery or you can click on speaker. And that will allow you to, if you want us to be big or small, you can decide. So just wanted to mention that. And I think the next poem I'm going to read is called Breathe Yourself New. And let's see. Maybe today is the day to tip it all upside down, to shake out what is stale and small and suffocatingly too sure. Maybe today, rather than being tossed about by enough will never be enough expectations, rather than grabbing for another word, another way, another now, you could step outside and watch sky make a new day. Maybe today is the day to let go of doubt's smothering hand, to stop hunting for worthiness, to choose to follow only what feels like tail wagging enthusiasm, like fireflies, warm, sure glow, like love sprouting roots from the bottom of bare feet. Maybe today is the day to remember that if it doesn't grow the flame warmer, truer, brighter, if it doesn't feel like a deep dive into this boundless breath of now, it's not meant for you. Then lean close in to your own glorious glow and breathe yourself new. Just pause there for a minute. This next one is called Everything is Speaking. If you get quiet enough, you will hear that everything is speaking. Set me down, whispers mountain. I was never meant to be carried. Lean every ruined and ravaged bit of you against me. Notice how held you are. You are not alone. Forest with all its scorched and fallen trees says, sweetheart, It is all right. It's all right. Sometimes the mess has to be burned to the ground to let the grand and glorious grow. Let it burn. Giant cottonwood calls, come, rest in the shelter of my arms. Hear these words. You are a wonder. Whatever terrible thing that has happened to you does not need to keep happening. You are worlds stronger than your wounds. A pause in the middle of the day says, remember, remember, darling, you are not the broken bits in the burn pile, but the one who sees the wreckage and says, I am still here. If you get quiet enough, you will hear that everything is speaking. Set it down. Let it burn. Write the first word of your new story. Make it your very own.
So I have a thought, Julia. Would you be willing to read that poem again?
Yeah, I would be willing. Sure.
And maybe we sometimes do this in writing class, invite recalls. So, as Julia reads through her poem again, if there's a phrase or a word that kind of touches you or stands out, at the end, after she finishes reading, we welcome you to put it in the chat if you want.
Yeah.
It's not a assignment.
Not required if you want
No,
to listen.
not at all.
Page number for that one. Yeah, Teresa, it is page 87 and 88. Okay, and I will read this one again. If you get quiet enough, you will hear that everything is speaking. Set me down, whispers mountain. I was never meant to be carried. Lean every ruined and ravaged bit of you against me. Notice how held you are. You are not alone. Forest with all its scorched and fallen trees says, sweetheart, it's all right. It is all right. Sometimes the mess has to be burned to the ground to let the grand and glorious grow. Let it burn. Giant cottonwood calls, come, rest in the shelter of my arms. Hear these words. You are a wonder. Whatever terrible thing has happened to you does not need to keep happening. You are worlds stronger than your wounds. A pause in the middle of the day says, remember, remember, darling, you are not the broken bits in the burn pile, but the one who sees the wreckage and says, I am still here. If you get quiet enough, you will hear that everything is speaking. Set it down. Let it burn. Write the first word of your new story. Make it your very own. I was never meant to be carried. Lauren, do you want to read those as they pop up?
Yes, I was slowly typing my own.
Oh, you're
Happy
typing
to.
too.
Of course.
Just say it.
Yeah, let me scroll back up. Okay, yeah, Shelley writes, I was never, or the recall is, I was never meant to be carried. Notice how held you are. Let the grand and glorious grow. You are worlds stronger than your wounds. Lisa recalls, you are worlds stronger than your wounds. Yes. This is touching me and bringing tears to my eyes. Oh, what I wrote, or my recall, you are not the broken bits in the burn pile, but the one who sees the wreckage and says, I am still here. Alan writes, set it down, let it burn. Christy writes, you are not the broken bits. You are the one that sees the wreckage and says, I am still here. Mitzi writes, worlds stronger than your wounds. Christy writes, and write the first word of your new story. Shelley writes, I am still here. Mitzi, set it down, let it burn. Teresa writes, you are not the broken bits in the burn pile. Leah writes, everything that has happened to you does not have to keep happening. Oof. Oop. And yeah.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Oh, I'm just so touched to see all these faces. I'm so honored that you took some time out of your evening to come. Thank you all so much. I'm going to read one called Bird Song next. And I have a thing for birds, and I think that almost every poem I have has birds in them. It's funny, I realized when I did my very first reading that trees and breath in poems are trees, breath, and birds. And what was the other thing? Cups of tea often come into my poems. It's funny how that is my comfort. Yes, and I have several hummingbird feeders outside of my kitchen window, and I just get to watch these little guys just come and sip nectar, and it's just one of the sweetest things to me. I've been thinking so much about birds and how they just sing, they just go around and sing their song, and we listen, and how much we get from listening to birds. And they're just doing what they do. They're not trying, they're not efforting in any way, they're just singing. And I just feel like that's such a lesson for us if we just we could just know that we could just show up exactly as who we are, and it doesn't have to be difficult, it doesn't have to be an efforting. I am in a second grade classroom every day, and every single one of these little people are so unbelievably sweet that I just look at each of them and all of their little quirks and all of their cuteness, and they're so perfect, every single one of them, like just exactly how they are. And they're not at the place yet where they're self-conscious, and it's just so sweet to see what they say just spontaneously without giving it much thought at all. And it's just such an honor to watch these little ones, and such a great reminder that it doesn't need to be hard to be ourselves. There's usually just about removing things, getting things out of the way, so the essence can shine. So bird song, since it's spring and the birds are going crazy, I'm going to read this one. If you find your attention being pulled by the sound of birdsong. Let yourself be pulled. And then, no matter how hurried you think you are, stop whatever you are doing and listen. Listen as if this moment is all there is, as if every answer to every question you have ever asked rests in the rhythm of inhale and exhale. Listen as if one day you will run out of time to listen. Listen until you are so full of song, you can't help but sprinkle it like seed to every hungry heart. And when bird lifts her wings to fly, go, please, go fly with her. Lauren, I know that you had a couple that you were thinking you wanted me to read. So is now a good time for that?
Yes, sure. Yeah, the poem, Her New Story, there's a line in it that maybe I could share at the end that, if with Julia's permission, that came up in our writing class. And that line that she wrote was my recall in class. And it was just, a free write, kind of writing spontaneously and what was emerging. And so it was so cool to see the poem that kind of formed shape and built up around it. So yes, I would love to hear you read Her New Story.
Okay, here we go. Okay. She is rising. She is rising up and out of the stuckness of her yesterdays. She will slip off the cloak of smallness and drape, adorn, bless, and blanket herself in her own brand of bigness. She will surrender the suffocating squeeze of conformity, the dizzying race to nowhere. She will stop waiting for someone else's hand to show her the way only she can know. She will stop waiting, period. She will remember that all she has been chasing, rest here where feet kiss fertile ground, here where body beats and breathes and breathes and breathes. She will have the audacity to take up space, to follow the trail of her own wild longings, to be herself, all of herself, only herself. She will invite you to join her. She is rising. She is rising up and out and through the door that has always been hers to open. She will remember and remember again that she belongs to herself. She will remember that she is necessary. She will insist, she will persist, she will not take no for an answer. She will be her own savior, her own superhero, her own guide, her own guru, with the help of her sisters, of course. She will follow her own rhythms, her own reasons. She will slip into the new, the never before. She will plant herself firmly and decidedly in her own certain skin. She will bow to the crooked, winding ways that led her from there to here. She will bow to each of her sisters, to all women and girls, to all beings everywhere. She will promise to hold her own hand forever. She will promise to hold yours too. She will listen to the wisdom of rivers and wildflowers, to the great growling hunger deep, deep in her belly. She will listen to the silent places between then and now, between there and here, between this word and the next. She will write a new story, a story that begins and ends with love. She is rising. She is rising up and out of the stuckness of her yesterdays. Dear sisters, do you hear her? Come, she calls. Let us say each other's names. Let us reimagine. Let us gather, grow, build, become. Let us become the roaring wildfire that burns the small away. Let us rise. Let us rise together. Together, let us rise.
Is it all right, Julia, if I share what, yeah. Oh my gosh, I have to like catch my breath. When Julia, the line was, she is rising up and out of the stuckness of her yesterdays. And when Julia wrote that, and she just in her playful, warm, friendly way, you know, I don't remember if you recall something in that moment, but I remember so quick to be like, I have a recall. And it's this. She is rising up out of the stuckness of her yesterdays. And I'm wondering, Julia, do you have a recall now in just having read this poem again and you know, being with it freshly?
Yes, I do. And you know, the one line that I just have to give my mom all of the credit for, she will not take no for an answer. Because my mom has, I cannot tell you how many times she said that in her life, and she does not take no for an answer. It's just really, it's not always eloquent, but she's very adamant about not taking no for an answer. So that was really like a shout out to my mom, that one line. I really noticed it as I was reading that. So yeah, thank you. And Lauren, I don't know, I think you recalling that one line is what really prompted me to take it and keep going with it. So I really thank you for pointing it out to me.
I felt like I was so much more excited than you were. You were like, oh, I'm like, are you? Oh, like, that's amazing.
Oh gosh, and I love like the pets that I'm seeing like crawling around. Lisa's always got the cat. Oh, Lisa's in my writing class, and every writing class the cat is there. I love it so much. She's part of the writing circle. Okay, gosh, I can't believe how fast this time is. We're just going so quickly here tonight. But we look like we still have about 20 minutes. So I am going to, my hardest thing is to choose things, to make decisions. I'm not the best decision maker, so I'm just going to choose. I think I will read one of my brand new poems next. And this one, this is, I dedicated this song to Eileen, who I just met. She just came into my life one day, this amazing woman, emailed me and said, I'm a poet too. And she read and reads my poetry with such attention and seeing. I just, it's so beautiful to be seen by people and to feel heard. And this woman is one of many women in my life who I feel that way about. And such an honor to have her here. And this particular poem, I was having a really hard day, or a really hard few days. And I was just kind of stuck in that place of not okayness, or I felt not okay. And she sent me the most comforting email ever. And it was so beautiful because there was no trying to fix. It was just, I see you. And it was just a beautiful, whatever it was, it was poetry in itself. So this is for Eileen. It's called Look Up Love. On a day when I most need comforting, it is Hummingbird who comes to me first. That sweetheart with her tiny, tenacious wings shows me how to drink and drink and drink. And then it is Sister who scoops me up from dark, churning sea, just when I'm sure it will pull me under. I am here, always here, she sings. I understand. I see. Just when I think the stone of sorrow will sink me, it is Sky who silently whispers, look up, love. Do you see? There is enough space for sun to set. For moon to rise, for bird to journey 1,000 miles, for storms to rage, for infinite stars to shine. Might there be space for you too? On a day when I most need comforting, that mysterious something rises, 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 reminds me that I am not the storm, not the story, not the tsunami of thoughts inside the story. You are the sun, she hums, the whole sky too. Then she guides my cupped hands to that thawing spring of sorrow. And I drink, I drink, I drink. Then she guides my cupped hands to that thawing spring of sorrow. And I drink. And that one more part of that story is that I just kind of said a little prayer of like, okay, guide me, what do I do? And it was an immediate message of go to the ocean. And I went to the ocean and ended up chasing a sunset, like all the way up the West Coast. I felt like I was just I'd been on a beach and I was like, I better get back. It's starting to get dark. And it was kind of just the light was pretty, but once I got in the car and started driving, it just got stunningly gorgeous, like as I was driving north, and I ended up pulling over and just being astonished at the sunset. And it just was one of those moments of so glad I listened. And I'm so glad I have support of people who help me come back to myself. So that was just a real beautiful moment and a real lesson in listening to that deeper place that really does know if we just stop for a minute and listen. It's always got something really important to say. So that's something I'm constantly practicing, like, oh yes, I can come back to that. So a lot of these poems I would describe as messages to myself, love letters a little bit to myself when I'm in a place that feels stuck. And always I'm thinking to how can it transfer to other people. So I want it to feel for me, but also to feel really universal so that it can touch hopefully other people. And it's the human experience, and we're all doing it, and we're all doing it together. And I know that we all have very similar I'm not enoughs. And so I'm always kind of thinking of all the beautiful souls in my life and just everywhere. So let's see. It seemed like was there a question? Okay, that's a question there. Okay, I think next I'm going to read one called The Most Important Thing. And let's see. This is on page 51 for those of you who are following along. This is called The Most Important Thing. I'm making a home inside myself, a shelter of kindness where everything is forgiven, everything allowed, a quiet patch of sunlight where I can stretch out without hurry, where all that has been banished and buried is welcomed, spoken, listened to, released. A fiercely friendly place I can claim as my very own. I am throwing arms open to the whole of myself, especially the fearful, fault-finding, falling apart, unfinished parts, knowing every seed and weed, every drop of rain has made the soil richer. I will light a candle, pour a hot cup of tea, gather around the warmth of my own blazing fire. I will howl if I want to, knowing this flame can burn through any perceived problem, any prescribed perfectionism, any lying limitation, every heavy thing. I am making a home inside myself where grace blooms in grand and glorious abundance, a shelter of kindness that grows all the truest things. I whisper hallelujah to the friendly sky. Watch now as I burst into blossom. As I was reading that, all I could think of was my baby girls who are not babies anymore. They're 17 and 20, and there is nothing I can imagine that I would want more for them, to know that they have this home inside themselves. Recently, my oldest daughter, we were having a really great conversation, and we were talking about so much of the struggle that's happening in the world. And my daughter said, you know, Mom, I just have this thing in me that I just know. I know what to do. And I couldn't have felt more touched and more proud and more just relieved that she felt tethered to this something that felt like a guidance system for her. And I just kept thinking, that's your home. That's the home inside of you. And just to watch her as a college student blossoming, like beautifully blossoming, and it's just so sweet because we can have these conversations now that she's no longer in our home. We're having much better conversations now than we were when she was here, and she's so incredible, and both of our girls are just amazing and different, and there's nothing I could want for them more than to find that home inside of them. I just got to see Wendy. Hello. So many people I want to say hi to. I just have to take a second here. Oh my gosh. So great. Lauren, did you have something that you wanted to say? You look like you might have something.
So much to say, always. Well, I was just wondering, I was kind of eyeing the time, if we want to, open it up for some Q&A, or if you'd like to read another poem before doing that, whatever kind of.
Yeah, I'm totally open to Q&As. Yeah, it's amazing. Time just kind of went very, very quickly. So yes, please, if there, and you can feel free if you have any comments, questions, to unmute and just say it verbally rather than writing it down.
Wendy, yeah.
I'm curious. It's been so long since I was in one of the writing groups. Like, I mean, just like lifetimes it feels. And so I'm just wondering, from at what point did you feel like you had enough poems that you were ready to put them into the world in a bound way? And what have you learned about yourself with allowing things to be finished enough?
Oh, that is a good question. You know, I feel like I have gotten to the point where everything I do, or most, no, I shouldn't say everything I do, big decisions like a book, it just felt like time. That's just I had such a collection, and my first book, I put it out, I think it was 2012, and it had just been so long, and I had many new poems, and I realized, oh, I really do. I did want this next book to have more poems than the first one. The first one also had my artwork. And so I just felt like, my gosh, I have quite a collection. And then this beautiful Eileen woman, sister Eileen here, she was connected to a publisher, and she let me know that who she went through and that she loved this person. And it just was like one little like breadcrumb after the next. It was like, oh, and that kind of planted a seed, like, yeah, maybe it's time for another one. And let's see, what was your next question, Wendy? What did I learn?
Just being willing to have things be
Right.
like knowing that it's I don't know, I would sense that for me, for this kind of published work, it's like as soon as I send in the final draft, I would be wondering, like, oh, should this have, like, this latest edition, should I send it on, or is this part of the next one? And how do you discern when a project is complete?
That's so funny. Yeah, no, as you were saying that, I'm like, I saw Matt smiling, because all along I was like, wait, I think I have 5 more I need to put in. And I kept sending more and more to the publisher. So at some point, I think Matt was like, nope, that's for the new book. Like, I think sometimes I need someone just to say stop, because I kept kind of looking back at poems and kind of going, oh, I want to change that one word. And so my publisher was amazing. We went back and forth so many times, and he was extremely patient with me, because I did go back and kind of read and decide different things and take things away and add things. And finally, I just got too exhausted. I was exhausting myself and just had to stop the process. Yeah, I think my publisher might have decided to fire me also if I had continued. So yeah, I just stopped at some point. But that's a very good question. I'm trying very hard to I mean, there is no perfect, that's the thing. I kind of keep reminding myself that it's just not something that is even a real thing. And yeah, it's, for me, I guess, when a poem is done, it's just more of a feeling, it feels finished. And sometimes it takes a long time to feel that. And sometimes it's a super fast process. So it really just kind of depends on the poem. Thanks for that question. Yeah, if there's any other ones, and if there's not, I have plenty of other poems I can read.
So this is not a question. You had said in this last poem that so much of what's in this book, so many of the writings that you've done have been, love letters to yourself, or, figuring out what is the angst in me and what brings healing to me. and that the writing is for you. And along the way, I hope it's for others. And I will 100% verify that it is for others, because reading your poems brings healing to me too. And I think to a lot of people. Just that we see life in the moment, in the ordinary, in the miracles of the ordinary, and the healing of the now, So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. If there are other questions, I think right now I want to read one other poem. And if there are questions and people want to stay a little bit longer, that is, I can be here. I'm gonna read The Cure for It All, because I just find that to be one that I like to send people off with. Go gently today. Don't hurry or think about the next thing. Walk with the quiet trees. Can you believe how brave they are? How kind? Model your life after theirs. Blow kisses at yourself in the mirror, especially if you think you've messed up. Forgive yourself for not meeting your unreasonable expectations. Praise fresh air, clean water, good dogs. Spin something from joy. Open a window, even if it is cold outside. Sit. Close your eyes. Breathe. Allow the river of it all to pulse through eyelashes, fingertips, bare toes. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe until you feel your bigness, until the sun rises in your veins. Breathe until you stop needing anything to be different. And that puts us right at 6 o'clock. It's like, oh goodness. I understand if people are needing to go right at 6. But if people do have questions, please feel free to ask.
Julia,
Yes.
I grew up with poetry that was rhymey. My mother read us rhymey poetry, taught us that kind, and I was always very thinking a poem had to rhyme. And listening to your poetry, I feel almost like it's being spoken from source, from your loving source to you. So there's this, I can't even describe it except to know being spoken to from a higher place. And there's so much to take in and understand, and you feel so loved and embraced. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it just blows my mind, because poetry to me was always, you had to rhyme or haiku or something. But no, this is source poetry of some sort. It's just so beautiful. And thank you so much. Oh my goodness.
Thank you, Leah. Leah is one of my people. I love you, Leah. Everybody here is you guys are all my people. It's like to have everyone in one spot is just such a huge gift. So thank you so much for being here. I do want to just say a real quick, I have a few spaces left in my class that starts tomorrow. If anybody wants to write themselves free, I will be doing that tomorrow evening. I just wanted to throw that out there. I still have some spots. So But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for being here and for being so attentive. And
Hi. Hi. I'm sorry, I'm coming in so late with this. I was actually, well, first, thank you. The first time I've heard your work, I loved it. I was expecting some time devoted to actually talking about how you do conduct your writing workshops. Maybe, I know you're at the end of this, maybe some of us who want to hear about that can stay over time, or you can lead me to where I'd find that out.
oh, absolutely. Sure. Yes, Bree, if you stay on, we could chat about it.
Okay, great.
And if anybody else wanted to stick around, but otherwise, yeah, if there aren't any other questions, just want to say thanks. And Lauren, thank you so much. And oh my gosh, and by the way, I just want to say, and I'm going to put this out in a follow-up email, that Lauren is incredible. If anybody is in need of any self-empowerment and healing and all kinds of incredible turning towards yourself, Lauren does the most unique style of, she doesn't call it therapy or meditation. She calls it a body-based process of turning toward what's challenging in our lives, and healing old wounds and just deepening your connection to yourself. So I will be doing a follow-up email with her information. She has she's the founder of MetaMinds and the creator of Mindfulness Aloud. So I will include a link and a follow-up so you can find her. She's absolutely incredible to work with. So if anyone is interested, I will send that link out in the follow-up message. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Julia.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
I am speechless, Julia. I'm in awe. One of the women touched the essence of what your poetry is to me. It flows from love source. And it's like much more than taking a vitamin pill every day. It's something that causes that love force to grow inside the soul and says, more, please. But seeing you read and feeling your soul, I put you on the big screen because I wanted to meet Julia in like a brand new way. I've already met you where you've sent a couple of voice messages, and your voice also echoes love source. And it's what our world is hungering for. And you have the openness of heart and soul to say, here is food for all of you. So I just say thank you, Julia, and may love source keep flowing through you, speaking through you, and all of us are a part of you. So I just feel totally and unconditionally blessed by this night with you and with everyone that gathered. Like souls somehow are attracted together. So thank you.
I mean,